three men were hiking through a remote desert trail when one of them stopped to take a photo of the landscape. The hike seemed completely normal, just the three of them enjoying the scenery and quiet surroundings. The group continued along the trail and eventually stopped for a break. While resting, one of the hikers began looking through the photos he had taken, planning to share them with family. That's when he noticed something that immediately unsettled him. Partially hidden behind a large rock off the trail, what appeared to be a person could be seen crouching in the distance. The figure blended so well into the rocky landscape that none of the three men remembered seeing anyone there during the hike. At first, they assumed it was probably another hiker who had stopped to rest. But even then, something about it felt strange. The person appeared to be partially concealed behind the rock, and seemed to be looking directly toward them. Considering how remote the area was, it left them wondering why someone would be sitting there so still without making their presence known. Thankfully, the hikers passed through the area without any problems, but afterward they couldn't help but wonder who that person was and what they were doing out there watching from a distance. Someone was out in the desert at night when they spotted something terrifying. Standing in the distance was a strange red humanoid figure. At first glance, it almost didn't look real. The figure appeared red against the darkness and seemed to be wearing what looked like white pants. The sight was unsettling enough that the witness immediately began recording, and the footage spread online. People quickly started debating what they were looking at. Some labeled it a devil-like entity because of its unusual color and human-like appearance. Others suggested there was probably a more ordinary explanation. Unfortunately, the footage was too blurry and distant, but coming across someone who looked like that alone in the desert at night would be enough to make most people turn around and leave immediately. Someone was resting in the desert during a hike when they looked up and noticed something unusual in the sky. A strange cloud formation appeared, with a faint light source seemingly pushing across the cloud layer, shifting sideways while disturbing the shape beneath it. Commenters suggested it could be an aircraft or an atmospheric reflection distorted by cloud density and lighting conditions. Others pointed to the growing amount of unusual sky footage being shared in recent years. But whatever it was, it doesn't look entirely natural, does it? A person exploring a deserted area entered a cave with only a flashlight. While scanning one of the corners, they suddenly noticed something terrifying. It appeared to be human, but it didn't move or react, staying completely motionless in the darkness. The person immediately backed away. There's little information about the footage, so it's hard to tell what was going on here. But even without explanation, it's still a terrifying sight. A man was near Canmore, Alberta, when he noticed something moving high across a distant mountain ridge. He kept his camera rolling as a dark figure appeared across the rocky terrain. As he zoomed in, it appeared to be moving upright, crossing the steep ridge with unusual speed and balance. The man believed it could be a Sasquatch, while others argued it was likely a bear. We'll likely never know for sure. 3-year-old Laura Bradbury disappeared from her family's campsite at Indian Cove Campground in Joshua Tree National Park, California on October 18, 1984. That day, Laura had walked with her 8-year-old brother to the campground's portable restrooms. For just a brief moment, he left her waiting outside while he went in. But when he came back out, Laura was gone. What followed was one of the largest searches the area had ever seen. More than 250 people searched the rugged desert landscape looking for any sign of the missing child. At one point, a bloodhound reportedly followed what appeared to be Laura's trail for nearly 2 miles before losing the scent. But despite the massive effort, no trace of her was found. After 3 days, the search was officially called off. As investigators worked the case, witnesses reported seeing a man in his 50s driving a metallic blue van near the campground around the time Laura vanished. A similar man was reportedly seen again hours later in another area not far from the park, but no arrests were ever made. Then, in 1986, hikers made a heartbreaking discovery near the park's western entrance. Human remains were found approximately 5 miles from Laura's campsite. Years later, advanced DNA testing confirmed they belonged to Laura. But even with that discovery, the mystery was never fully solved. Authorities were unable to determine exactly what happened between the moment Laura disappeared and where her remains were ultimately found. More than 4 decades later, no one has been charged in connection with the case. A cowboy was riding his horse through a remote desert area late at night, searching for part of his herd that had wandered off. The trail was quiet. The only sounds came from the wind and the movement of his horse. Then he heard something.
Pancho! 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 Quieto! Oh! Quieto! Quieto! Quieto. Cuando llegué se escuchaban los coyotes y se oyó algo diferente a los coyotes. El caballo también está bien espantado. Oh, caballo escucha algo. Caballo escucha algo. Oye. Está alguien llorando. No sé qué sea. Oye. Oye. Oh, quieto. Quieto. Oye, lamento.
Strange noises coming from nearby bushes. He stopped and scanned the darkness, trying to figure out what had made the sound. But at first, he couldn't see anything moving. Then suddenly, he spotted this.
¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué es eso? No manches. No.
In the distance, a figure dressed in white appeared to be standing out in the desert. The sight immediately caught his attention, and as he continued walking, the figure seemed to move closer toward him. Unfortunately, the footage cuts off shortly afterward, leaving no explanation for what happened next. So who, or what, was standing out there in the desert that night? A TikTok account known as Urb Explorers posted a video on December 25th, 2025, showing them walking through a small forested area in the desert when they came across a strange hole in the ground. Curious, they climbed down and entered a narrow tunnel-like space beneath it. Almost immediately, they reported feeling uneasy, describing symptoms similar to a panic attack while inside. Despite that feeling, they continued deeper into the tunnel with their camera still rolling. A few seconds into the footage, a pale face can be seen at the far end of the tunnel, staring directly toward them from the darkness. It could be a staged or edited moment designed for shock value, because how could they miss something so visible while filming? But if it is real though, what could it be? In July 2014, YouTuber RockMoons90 was camping in Mexico when he decided to hike the Ruta Aves trails with his camera gear. During the hike, a pickup truck passed by him twice. The second time, something felt off, so he grabbed his GoPro and hid it. Then, this happened. The armed man took his backpack and tripod. The hiker returned to his campsite and later contacted local authorities, who reportedly told him similar robberies had happened in the area before. Truly a scary experience. But all that for a backpack and a tripod. A woman named April Beth Pitzer disappeared after being last seen in Newberry Springs, California on June 28, 2004. At the time, April was trying to rebuild her life. She had recently moved from Arkansas to California, working as a caregiver while struggling with bipolar disorder and unstable living conditions. Shortly before she vanished, she admitted to her mother that she had stopped taking her medication and had been living between shelters and the streets. Despite the difficulties, April told her family she wanted to return to Arkansas and reunite with her children. According to reports, she planned to travel by bus. An acquaintance later gave her a ride to a bus station, but she never arrived at her destination. And after that, her family never heard from her again. As the months passed, investigators and volunteers searched for answers. Then, in remote desert mining areas near the Mojave Desert, personal belongings believed to April began turning up. Clothing and other items were reportedly found scattered across a wide area. Some of the discoveries were especially unsettling, with items allegedly located in abandoned mines and other isolated structures deep in the desert. But despite the findings, no clear evidence ever revealed exactly what happened to her. Years later, additional searches were conducted after reports of possible human remains being discovered near old wells and mining sites. Yet the mystery remained unsolved. To this day, no confirmed suspects have been identified, and no definitive answers have ever been given about April Beth Pitzer's fate. What should have been a journey home to see her children again instead became a disappearance that has remained unanswered for more than 2 decades. A man exploring an abandoned house in the desert came across something strange while filming inside. The building appeared completely empty. While looking around, he noticed a narrow crevice in one of the walls. Curious, he pointed his camera toward the opening. That's when he saw it. Staring back at him from the darkness was a single eye. At first glance, it looked almost human. But the eye had a yellowish appearance, and the area around it appeared to be covered in dark fur. Whatever was hiding behind that wall, it definitely wasn't a person. Some viewers suggested it was probably a cat or another animal that had squeezed into the confined space. Others pointed out that the eye seemed unusually large and difficult to identify. Unfortunately, the video never reveals what was actually hiding there, and no follow-up explanation was ever shared. 2 bikers were riding through the Russian mountains at night when they suddenly stopped near a large rock formation. It seemed like just another obstacle on the trail, but then they noticed movement. There were what appeared to be pale human-like figures with dark, hollow eyes. When the bikers pointed their lights toward them, the figures reacted immediately, scrambling away from the beams as if they were trying to avoid being seen. The footage, recorded on a bike-mounted camera, cuts shortly after the encounter. Some viewers believe the figures match descriptions of skinwalkers or similar folklore entities, while others think the video is staged or edited. If only the bikers had told us what happened next, or what they believed they actually saw. On April 11, 2019, Kat Hamonter joined a group of hikers exploring Cañón del Diablo in Baja California, Mexico. The canyon is known for its stunning pools, waterfalls, and rugged desert scenery. Kat wasn't in the best physical condition that day. She had recently suffered several broken toes and was still dealing with ongoing health issues. About 10 minutes into the hike, she decided to stop and rest beside a pool of water with her dog, Tootsie, while the rest of the group continued toward a nearby waterfall. According to the hikers, the trip would only take about 90 minutes. Kat told them she would wait there until they returned. With Tootsie by her side, the arrangement seemed completely reasonable, so the group continued on. But when they returned to the spot where they had left her, Kat was gone. So was Tootsie. At first, nobody was overly concerned. They assumed she had simply headed back to the vehicles. But when they arrived at the trailhead, she wasn't there either. That's when the situation became alarming. A massive search operation followed. Rescue teams, volunteers, military helicopters, and tracking dogs searched the rugged canyon for days. Despite covering miles of terrain, no trace of Cat was found, and perhaps most strangely, no trace of Tootsie either. No clothing, no belongings, nothing. Years later, the mystery remains unsolved. A clip circulating online claims to show the tomb of Gilgamesh, the legendary king of Uruk who appears in the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest surviving works of literature ever discovered. According to ancient texts, Gilgamesh was a powerful ruler who embarked on epic journeys, battled mythical creatures, and searched for the secret of immortality. Because of his legendary status, the location of his real burial place has remained one of archaeology's enduring mysteries. Then, in 2003, reports emerged that archaeologists working near the Euphrates River in Iraq may have identified ancient structures connected to the lost city of Uruk. Some researchers even speculated that the area could be linked to the long-lost tomb of Gilgamesh, but the discovery was never fully verified. Years of instability, conflict, and looting in the region made further investigations extremely difficult. This clip is claimed to show that alleged resting place. However, there is no confirmed evidence that the structure shown in the footage is actually connected to Gilgamesh. Some believe it may simply be an archaeological site that was misidentified online. Others think the footage could be entirely unrelated to the famous king. And of course, some people really believe it could be connected to one of history's most legendary figures. The truth is, no confirmed tomb of Gilgamesh has ever been officially identified. A man named Glenn from Michigan reviewed his home security footage in 2018 after an alert was triggered outside his house while he and his wife were inside. When they checked the recording, a single frame showed a dark, strange silhouette hovering above their car near the house. The shape looked unnatural, not clearly matching a person or an animal, and didn't resemble a typical motion-triggered false alarm. To me, it kind of has an angel shape. Maybe a guardian angel protecting them while driving. In Coober Pedy, Australia, thousands of people live underground to escape extreme desert heat. The town sits in one of the hottest regions on Earth, where surface temperatures can rise above 50 degrees Celsius. Because of this, homes, shops, churches, and even hotels were built directly into the rock below ground. Inside these underground spaces, temperatures stay stable and cool throughout the year, making daily life possible in conditions that would otherwise be unbearable above the surface. The settlement has also developed around opal mining, with many of the underground homes originally carved out as part of mining work before being expanded into living spaces. Above ground, the landscape appears dry, harsh, and almost unlivable, but just below the surface, an entire community continues life. A man was driving through the Navajo reservation when he noticed a strange formation on the side of a mountain. It was a perfectly circular crater carved into the rocky surface, with a shape that looked too precise to be natural erosion. The unusual cemetery led some to suggest it could be a possible UFO landing site, left behind by an unidentified craft. Others disagreed and suggested it might be a sinkhole or natural collapse, though the location made that explanation harder to understand, since sinkholes typically form on flatter ground. With no confirmed evidence or investigation, the origin of the formation remains unknown. Richard Dipio was visiting Utah near Capitol Reef National Park when he was last seen at a hotel in Torrey over the weekend. The 77-year-old was believed to have been hiking in the Chimney Rock area sometime between Saturday and Monday. At first, there was little reason for concern. But as time passed, nobody could locate him. The rugged landscape surrounding Capitol Reef is known for its steep terrain, rocky canyons, and vast remote areas where a person can quickly find themselves in trouble. When Richard failed to return, multiple agencies launched a coordinated search effort. National Park Service personnel were joined by teams from the Bureau of Land Management, along with deputies from Wayne and Sevier counties. Despite those efforts, no immediate trace of him was found. At the time of these reports, the search was still ongoing. If you're in the area or have any information about Richard Dipio's whereabouts, authorities ask that you contact the Wayne County Sheriff's Office at 1-800-356-8757. Hopefully, he is found safe and reunited with his loved ones soon. A group of friends had been exploring a remote desert area when they came across a cave. Curious about what might be inside, they decided to leave the main path and investigate further. At first, everything seemed normal. The area was quiet, with nothing but the sound of the wind moving through the desert. But as they continued exploring, they began hearing horrifying screams. The sounds were loud enough to immediately make them uneasy. Unsure of what they were hearing, they pulled out a camera and started recording. As the screaming continued, their curiosity quickly turned into concern. And before long, concern turned into panic. Whatever was making the noise seemed close enough that they no longer felt comfortable staying there. So they abandoned the exploration and headed back the way they came. To this day, they still don't know what caused the screams they heard that night. A person recorded footage while driving through a remote mountain region in China with their family when they came across something unsettling on the road. Dozens of vehicles were scattered across the roadway. At first, it looked like the aftermath of a major crash or large-scale accident, almost apocalyptic. But there were no emergency vehicles, no responders, and no visible signs of rescue or cleanup. To this day, there is no clear explanation for what caused the scene or where everyone went. But imagine coming across this. It would leave an eerie feeling. A 26-year-old man named Sandarsh Krishna was visiting Grand Canyon National Park when he was last seen along one of the park's most popular routes. According to park officials, Sandarsh was last known to be somewhere along the Rim Trail on Hermit Road between Bright Angel Lodge and Mojave Point. Investigators believe he was in the area sometime between the afternoon of April 27th and the early hours of April 28th, 2026. What makes the case even more unusual is there was no known vehicle associated with him. Authorities believe he may have arrived using a rideshare or taxi service. When concerns were raised about his whereabouts, Park Dispatch was alerted and search efforts began. But despite the trail being located in one of the most visited national parks in the United States, there was no immediate trace of him. No confirmed sightings. No clear indication of where he went. The area where he was last seen is visited by thousands of people, yet somehow a person can still seemingly vanish without anyone noticing what happened. At the time of these reports, search efforts were ongoing and Sandarsh's whereabouts remained unknown. If you were visiting Grand Canyon National Park between April 27th and April 28th, 2026 and may have seen Sandarsh Krishna, authorities ask that you contact the ISB tip line at 888-653-0009. Hopefully, someone remembers seeing something that could help bring answers to his family. This footage was recorded somewhere in Brazil. According to the person filming, the massive footprint was discovered on a rural property. But beyond that, very little information was available. No exact location was provided, no official investigation was announced, and no experts were brought in to examine the site. The lack of information made the discovery difficult to verify. Still, the footprint itself immediately caught people's attention. Of course, there are several possible explanations. The simplest being that the footprint was deliberately created as a hoax designed to attract attention online. So what do you think? Was it nothing more than a hoax? Or did something enormous really leave that print behind? Archaeologists in Slovakia uncovered a large prehistoric burial site dating back roughly 7,000 years, where around 77 human skeletons were found in a ditch-like structure. Most of the remains were missing skulls, which immediately drew attention during the excavation. Researchers believe this is likely a Neolithic mass burial, possibly connected to early farming communities in the region. The arrangement and density of the remains suggests this was not a random scatter of bodies, but a structured deposit from a long-lost settlement. While theories range from ritual burial to conflict-related deaths, the exact reason behind the site is still being studied. Even after thousands of years, the ditch still raises questions about who these people were and what happened to them. This is an update on the case of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old woman who has been missing since early February after reportedly being taken from her home in Tucson, Arizona. For months, investigators have searched for answers, but recently, a new lead emerged. According to reports, a volunteer search group operating in Mexico received an anonymous tip claiming that Nancy's remains might be buried near Nogales, close to the Mariposa port of entry along the US-Mexico border. The information was serious enough that search teams decided to investigate. Working alongside local authorities, volunteers searched streams, rural terrain, and other areas near the location mentioned in the tip. Despite multiple coordinated search efforts, nothing was found. No remains and no evidence confirming the claim. Still, investigators have not dismissed the lead entirely. Experts say that when evaluating anonymous tips, details such as accuracy, specificity, and whether the information can be independently verified all play a major role in determining credibility. For now, Nancy's family continues to wait for answers. A person recorded the sky in the Chilean desert after noticing something unusual hovering overhead. Naturally, people began offering explanations. Some believed it was likely a drone, a weather balloon, or even an unusual atmospheric effect creating the illusion of a stationary object. Others weren't convinced. They pointed out how long it appeared to remain in place and argued that it didn't seem to match those explanations. And honestly, I've been fooled before. More than once I've thought I was looking at something mysterious, only to realize later it was something completely ordinary. So before jumping to conclusions, what do you think was floating over the Chilean desert that day? Someone was camping when they saw a strange-looking creature in the mud. For some reason, they tried picking it up with a pair of chopsticks, but that didn't go as expected. The creature suddenly seemed to vanish from that exact spot and reappear slightly away, almost like it had teleported. But it was likely just its quick movement combined with how easily it blends into the mud. The creature is actually a mud skipper, an amphibious fish that can survive both in water and on land. It uses its fins to move across mud and blends into its surroundings. A 28-year-old man named Miguel Chavez was reported missing in Coachella, California after going on a date and never returning home. According to his family, Miguel was last seen near Coyote Song Way, north of the Sun City Palm Desert area. When he failed to come home, concern quickly began to grow. The situation became even more troubling because Miguel reportedly suffered from several health issues, including diabetes and a herniated disc that made walking difficult. As family members and authorities searched for answers, a strange clue emerged. One of Miguel's shoes was reportedly found in the desert, but Miguel himself was nowhere to be found. Then, days later, the search came to a heartbreaking end. Miguel's body was discovered in an open desert area near Indio. Authorities have not publicly released a cause of death, and while investigators continued examining the circumstances surrounding the case, few details were made public. According to reports, the man Miguel had met on the date cooperated with investigators and turned over a phone for examination. No arrests were made, and authorities have not indicated whether foul play is suspected. For Miguel's family, the unanswered questions remained difficult to understand. They pointed to his physical condition and questioned why he would have traveled deeper into harsh desert terrain. As his sister later asked, Why would someone head farther into the wilderness rather than toward lights, roads, or other people? Until investigators release more information, the circumstances surrounding Miguel Angel Chavez's death remain unclear. Now, I would love to watch some more desert encounters together.